Do that. How about that? Welcome, everybody. If you can hear the sound of my voice, raise your hand in the GoToWebinar. You know, how do you raise your hand? There you go. Just makes me feel a little better. So welcome, my name is Michael Devlin and I'm a real estate broker. And this is called How to Launch a Successful Real Estate Career. Let me make sure I get everything working. Cool. So there's really three topics for tonight. Number one is why real estate. And by the way, maybe I should just say this. If you have questions, you can go ahead and type them in the chat. I may not get to them as they come in, but at the end I'll go through all of them. But if it looks like a really good question, I might just stop and talk about it. Three topics for tonight. Number one is why real estate. And what I mean by that is usually when people are willing to take time off on a Monday evening to participate in, well, let's just say something like this. It's usually because they're looking for something new, something different, hopefully better in their business or professional life. And I'm assuming that's why you're here. And if you're looking to do something different or better, why would you get into real estate, right? And why now, right? What do you need to do to be successful? How much money can you really make? What do real estate agents actually do? That sort of thing. We're gonna talk about that. Another topic will be how to choose an office to affiliate with. If you've decided you want to get into real estate, the next question is with whom? There's different kinds of real estate companies and they operate and are structured differently. And we'll look at some of the options that you would have. And then finally, and how to get started, we're going to talk about what do you need to do to get a real estate license? How long does that whole process take? And how much does all of this cost, right? So I hope that is pretty close to what you came to hear because, well, that's what I'm going to talk about. Why real estate? All right, get this working. Why real estate? I like to begin with the definition of some terms. You've probably heard the term broker and salesperson. Those two terms refer to two different kinds of real estate licenses. You could get either a real estate broker's license or you could get a real estate salesperson's license. Now, if you have a real estate salesperson's license, you can do pretty much everything that a broker can do, with two exceptions. A salesperson can do anything the broker can do. Two exceptions. Number one is be independent. Salespeople have to work for brokers, but brokers don't have to work for brokers. Brokers can be independent. The second thing you could do with the broker's license that you can't do with the salesperson's license is, well, you could brag about it. You could tell everybody that you've got the advanced license, the graduate license, the executive license. Most people won't know what you're talking about, nor do they, even particularly care. Now, in order to become a real estate broker in California, you need 2 years full-time experience in real estate or 4 years part-time experience in real estate, all within the last 5 years. So there's more than that, but let's just say we're going to talk about how to become a real estate salesperson because, well, I think that's where most of you are at, right? Then there's the word agent. This is a different kind of word because the word agent really is about a relationship. And the kind of relationship we're talking about is agency, where you have one person called the principal. In real estate, that would be a buyer or a seller, and another person who's called the agent. And the agent represents the principal in dealings with third parties. If there is no third party, then there is no agency. Now, the way this comes up is I have people ask me many times, if I get my real estate license and I decide I like to buy a house for myself or my family, can I be my own agent, right? I've been asked that question many times, and technically and legally, the answer is no. You can't be your own agent. And the reason is because an agent represents somebody else. If you're representing yourself in a real estate transaction, you're a principal, not an agent. You can't be both. Now, that was an accurate answer to the question, but it probably wasn't the question they were really asking me. right? The question I think that they're really asking is, if I get my real estate license and I decide to buy real property for myself or my family, can I save money on the commission? And the answer is yes. It isn't because you're an agent in the transaction. You're not, you're still a principal, but it's because you're a licensee. And because of that professional status, and when we use the word licensee, we're talking about a broker or a salesperson. When we're using that term, that because of that professional status, you could save money on the commission, but you're not an agent. And then there's the word realtor. The word realtor is a copyrighted designation of the National Association of Realtors, which is a trade association, which is kind of like a union. It's like the Teamsters Union, right? If you're not aware, the Teamsters Union, it's a union you might join if you wanted to drive trucks, as an example. So the question is, if you want to be a commercial truck driver, do you have to join the Teamsters Union? And the answer is no. No. What do you need to drive the truck? Well, you need the license, right? If you have the commercial license, you can drive commercially. You don't have to join the union. You might want to join the union. There are some jobs you won't get if you're not a member of the union, and they've got training and they've got job boards and they've got insurance programs and they got stuff, right, that you might find useful. So the union, as it were, in real estate is called the Association of Realtors. And if you join it, you become a word realtor. So the word realtor is like the word teamster. Right, you understand, it denotes that you're a member of an association, but does the law require that you join the Association of Realtors in order to sell real estate? The answer is no, no. Why would you join the Realtors Union? We're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get into the different kinds of real estate licenses. So what can you do with a real estate license? I'll bet you already knew that you could help people buy or sell residential properties and be paid a commission. Bet you already knew that. The same is true with commercial. I've had people say to me, I don't want to sell houses. I don't want to go to people's homes. I don't want to work evenings and weekends, right? I don't want to go and sit at people's kitchen tables, right? I don't want to do any of that. I only want to work business hours with business people. I want to get a commercial real estate license. How do I do that? And the answer is there's no such thing. There's just a real estate license. And if you have a real estate license, you can do residential, you can do commercial, and you can do loans. Now, you have to, in addition to having the real estate license, you have to get your license endorsed, which is called a mortgage loan originator, which is another fee and another exam and another course. And then you can do loans. Property management is where you're managing the property, but you don't own it or don't live in it, right? If you don't own the property like an apartment building or live in it, you need to have a real estate license in order to manage it. And management means finding tenants, collecting rents, taking care of the place, right? And then finally, we have a business opportunity. And a business opportunity is where we're selling a business, but not necessarily selling the building. Let's say you're going to buy a hardware store, a little neighborhood hardware store called Harry's Hardware. Now, Harry, who owns the hardware store, probably doesn't own the building and doesn't own the land. So if you buy the hardware store from Harry, you're not buying real property, you're buying personal property. But you can do that with a real estate license, help somebody do that with a real estate license and be paid a commission. All of the things on this list are available through the company I'm affiliated with. You can do all of them, or any of them, or just one. So the ways of getting a real estate license or holding it, you could work for a broker, you could not work for a broker, but you kind of need to work for a broker. Now, where I'm going with this is people will say to me, I don't really know what I'm going to do, right? Not really sure. I've always wanted to get into real estate. There's a lot of free time right now, so I think I want to do it, but I don't know who I want to work for, what I want to do. I don't know any of that. Can I go ahead and get my real estate license without having somebody without knowing what I'm going to do with it? And the answer is yes. Anybody that qualifies can go take the exam, pass it, get a license. And the Department of Real Estate will issue you a license in a non-working status. Now, a non-working real estate license is a lot like, well, let's say a non-working car, right? You can have it in your garage, and when your friends come over, you can show it to them and they can sit in it. But as soon as they say, hey, can we go for a drive? You have to say, well, no, you see, it's not a working car. So you can get a real estate license and hold it with the Department of Real Estate and keep it, and you can even print it out and show it to people. You can even get one of those little plastic cards, but you can't use it to do anything that requires a license until you have a broker. Why are people attracted to real estate? Probably one of the big reasons is freedom and independence. Being in real estate is not like having a job, right? We're not going to call you at 10 in the morning and say, hey, where are you? It's a lot more like having a business. And the people that are successful in real estate are generally people that have always wanted to be in business for themselves. It wouldn't hurt that you had some business acumen, right? And understood how businesses work a little bit. That would not hurt. So the relationship that the brokerage has with the associates is not an employer-employee arrangement. It's more like a business consultant or a business advisor to a business owner. You understand, we're not going to call you and say, where are you? And so there's a lot of freedom and independence. By the way, that's one of the biggest disadvantages for some people about being in real estate, freedom and independence. I don't know if you've ever met people like this, but have you ever met people where they work at whatever job they have just enough so that they don't get fired, right? And then the company usually pays them just enough so they don't quit, right? And they work out this sort of sick relationship. You know, now the thing about real estate, and I'm going to say it plainly, real estate is a non-salaried, commission-only profession, non-salaried, commission-only. It can be a very high-paying, hard job, but it can also be a very low-paying, easy one. Where I'm going with this is that you have to have self-discipline, you have to have motivation, because there's a lot of freedom and independence, and freedom is a gift that's not always wisely used. Another reason that people are attracted to real estate is to make money. How much money can you make in real estate? Well, it depends on a lot of things. How long have you been doing it, and how many people do you know, and some people are, let's just say, better at it than others, and how much time you have, and all sorts of different things. But let me give you an example. Supposing you sold a $800,000 property. You represent a buyer who wants to buy an $800,000 property. How much commission would typically be paid on a transaction like that? And that number will vary, right? It's not chiseled in stone. It's not set by law. It's something that can be negotiated. But it would not be uncommon on the sale of a $800,000 property for the commission to be $20,000. That would not be uncommon, 2.5% if you want to do the math. Now, by the way, that might be true for the agent who lists the property as well as the agent who finds the buyer for the property. So stick with me with this. So an $800,000 property, if you're in the Silicon Valley, let me just say that the median price of a single family home in San Jose, in Santa Clara County last month was over 1.3. Just going to throw that out there, right? The median price of a home in California is over 770,000. Right, in the Bay Area, 800 and something in Alameda, more in San Mateo and San Francisco. You see maybe where I'm going with this. So anyhow, you find a buyer who buys an $800,000 priced house. Your gross commission would be $20,000. Let's say in a year you found 6 people who wanted to sell an $800,000 house and it eventually sold, and 6 people who wanted to buy an $800,000 house and they eventually bought. That would be 12 transactions, and you would earn $240,000 in gross commission income from one transaction a month. It's fine to say that. Now, I guess the first question is, could you live on that? I know you'll have to cut back a little, but as you go up, right now, let's say that you're selling $1 million house. That's $25,000. in gross commission income, and 12 of those is $300,000 a year. Yeah. Now, by the way, $40 million, that would be $40 million homes or $22 million homes. I'm showing a very motivated and qualified buyer, $3.5 million homes. You get there a lot quicker. But let's say you did $40 million in the value of property that you sold in 1 year. Your commission would be about $1 million from $40 million transaction. Just giving you an idea of where this could go. And I know what some of you might be thinking, right? Is that if you had $1 million, in income coming at you, you'd have no idea how to spend that money, right? I'm sure that was a concern. But maybe you have some ideas. But one of the things you could do is you could invest in real estate. There's an old saying, buy land, they're not making any more of it. And a lot of people that end up, secure in their retirement do so because they bought real estate and owned it and now have something very valuable to sell. So if you wanted to be an investor in real estate, can you see the advantage of being in real estate? Because you see properties before other people see them, you know more about financing and what's happening with the market and a bunch of other things. So we might live on our commissions, but the goal is to retire on our investments. And then there's security. And that may seem strange for an independent contractor kind of a position, but I'll give you an example. A friend of mine had gone to San Jose State, where he studied mechanical engineering, graduated, and went to work for Hitachi in their hard drive division for 28.5 years, and then they laid him off. And they said it wasn't personal. There was nothing personal about the layoff, and he knew it really wasn't personal because they laid off the whole department, the whole division. They shut down the whole plant, right? Moved it to some other place in the world, right? So I'm not saying my friend was a perfect engineer, but even being a perfect engineer wouldn't have saved his job. Because it wasn't that they decided that he wasn't doing a good job. They just decided we don't need anybody doing that job here anymore. So being in real estate, because you're an independent contractor, because this is your own business, you can be bad at it. You can fail at it, but you can't really get fired from it. You understand, if you don't get along with us, you can take your license and go work for another broker. If you don't get along with any brokers, then tough it out for 2 years and then go get your own broker's license. All right? And then you don't have to work for anyone else. You can fail at real estate, but you really can't get fired. And some people find that, comforting. What are the ways of approaching real estate? You could start out as what we would call an unlicensed finder. So we know that, I'll talk more about this, but an unlicensed finder is somebody who's not licensed, maybe in the process of getting the license, who finds people that are interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate. I'll explain more. A referral-only agent is somebody who's actually gotten their real estate license, but doesn't want to join the association, the union, right, the multiple listing service. I'll explain, it'll be obvious why later. I'll explain why later. And they just refer business. Now, the difference between the two is an unlicensed finder can only refer people they already know. They're not out necessarily knocking on doors or that sort of thing. The referral-only agent has a real estate license and can be involved in the transaction and do all that, but they just refer business to somebody else. There's an investor agent, and the investor agent is somebody who really is just an investor who also sells real estate, right? And because the same process of being an investor is the same kind of process that they would need as an agent that helps investors, but they generally are not doing real estate full time. They've got other stuff, they're investing as well. Dual career means part-time. There's two kinds. There's the transitional part-time agent who wants out of whatever it is they're doing, and the goal is to make enough money consistently from real estate so they can quit whatever they're doing and go into real estate full-time. There's also the permanent part-time. The permanent part-time is somebody who doesn't really want to quit their job. It's where they're getting their medical benefits from. It's a steady salary. Plus, sometimes that's where they meet everybody that's thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate. So we can handle both of those groups, either some people that have no intention of going full-time to people that are part-time that want to go full-time, and then there are full-time agents. And full-time doesn't necessarily mean they don't have a family, or it means that they can spend at least 40 hours a week and invest that in real estate, right? You may have other things to do as well. And then there's big time. And what big time agents do is they've got teams. They've got regionally sized teams. They have people in other states. I have agents in Sacramento and agents in San Mateo and agents in Southern California that work on my team, expanding to Nevada and some other places. We'll talk more about that, but the big time agents have teams. Sometimes they cross state lines and sometimes even in other countries. More about that to come. So let's talk about the first rung of the ladder, unlicensed finder. So if you're a finder in California, you can find and introduce parties. And you could solicit parties, that means potential buyers or sellers, for a referral to others. We know that about 40% of all real estate transactions, when they track back, and ask, how did the buyer or seller find their real estate agent? 40% of the time, it was a referral from a family, friend, or coworker. Right, so that's 40% of the business. You might already know somebody or know somebody that knows somebody that wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. If you don't have a license, you can't take part in the negotiations. You can't discuss the price of the property. You can't discuss the terms or conditions of the transaction, but you can be paid a finder's fee. You can be paid a finder's fee. So referral-only agents generally do this because they don't want to pay monthly fees and they don't want to pay any upfront fees. And joining the Association of Realtors and the multiple listing service when you first join is going to cost about $1,100, $1,200, right? I'm going to explain pretty much line by line what it costs. So this is a way not to have to spend any money. Plus, there's no monthly fees, and they refer real estate business to people like me. They can be involved in the transaction. Sometimes, by the way, what the finders are doing, what the referral agents are doing is not only getting started for their real estate business, but earning some money that would help them join the Association of Realtors and dive in a little more. So challenges for full-time agents. Number one, you have to understand this is sales. And sales means you're paid for talking to people. You're paid for having conversations with people about buying, selling, or investing in real estate. The more people you talk to, the more you get paid. If you only talk to some people about real estate, you're only going to get paid some. But if you talk to a lot of people about real estate, well, then you're going to get paid a lot. Now, okay, who do you understand? It's a function of how many people you talk to, how many conversations you have. So who do you talk to? Well, you start, as I've already mentioned, by talking to the people you already know, because you know them. And they may know somebody as well that's interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate. But then you might have to talk to people you don't know. And that's because you don't know enough people to make a career just out of talking to them. Now, we'll talk about a little more of that in detail a little bit later, but that's whoever's better at having conversations with people is going to have more clients. You might need a 6-month reserve. I, a year ago, hired an agent in June who did an open house that I found for her where she met somebody that wanted to buy the house and they bought the house and she got her first commission check in July, right? Started in June. Now, I'm not saying that's, a normal beginning. A typical real estate transaction now takes at least 30, maybe 45 days in order to close. So if you wrote up an offer and it was accepted today, you're still looking at a month to a month and a half before you get paid. It might take a month or two before you're in contract with somebody. You understand you might need 6 months reserve if this is all you're doing, right? If you're in residential real estate, you have to work evenings and weekends. Make hay when the sun shines is an old line. When do your potential clients want to meet with you? Usually it's when they're not working, which is evenings and weekends. This, of course, is also why you could get started on a part-time basis. So I was asked, how long does this webinar? Eternity. It'll be over by 7:30, right? It's 1 hour long. That's not long. You have to be a self-starter. You have to have discipline. You're not working for somebody who's going to tell you what to do. You have to be the CEO of your own business. There's no salary, right? It's commission only. I already discussed that. And you're going to need some startup capital. Now, when you compare it to the rate of return of most businesses in terms of how long will it take and how much will you need to get started, it's usually a lot less. What is needed to succeed? I think that's the next one. Well, a goal and a plan wouldn't hurt. Let me give you an example. Let's say you like my idea of 12 transactions, right? 6 buyers and 6 sellers in 1 year. At $1 million price point, which is kind of below median in our area, that would be $300,000 in gross commission income, right? Maybe that sounds like a good goal. So what we would then do is say, well, how many appointments? Because you see, in order to close a real estate transaction, you're going to have an appointment with a buyer, seller, or investor in real estate. Now, when you're first getting started, and even when you've been in the business a long time, not every appointment will convert into a closed transaction. Now, good agents are doing 50 to 75% easy of their conversion because they qualify people before they meet with them. But let's say when you're just getting started, your conversion rate is only 25%. In other words, you need 4 appointments in order to close 1 real estate transaction. Now, what that would mean is in order to close 12 real estate transactions, you would need 48 appointments. 4 times 12. That would come out to roughly 1 appointment a week for 48 weeks, right? You can take a month off, right? You're in real estate, take a month off. So we're going to need 48 appointments to close 12 real estate transactions. Okay, how do we get an appointment? And the answer is we have conversations with people about buying, selling, or investing in real estate. How many conversations do you need to have in order to get an appointment? It depends. Depends on who you're talking to and how good you are at talking to them and a bunch of other factors. But let's just say you're going to need 50 conversations with buyers, sellers, and investors before you get an appointment. And then you're going to need 4 appointments before you close a transaction. So what that would come down to on a 5-day work week, you would need roughly 10 a day, 10 conversations a day, 5 days a week. That would give you the 50 conversations a week to produce the appointment a week, to produce the transaction a month, and you could go buy a Tesla maybe when you're done. So now the question is, all right, who are we going to talk to and how are we going to have those conversations? That's where training and coaching and mentoring comes in. Plus tools and systems, and we have lead referrals. We have a system where we can refer you leads. All of that comes through the training, coaching, tools, and systems. What does the schedule look like? This is one I stole from the internet, just as an example, but it's not so much the timing of everything, but the components. Preparation. Lead preparation, and when we talk about lead generation or lead preparation, what we're talking about is appointment setting activities. So this is getting the list of people together, or who you're going to reach out to, that sort of information to get prepared. Lead generation, which is doing things that could create appointments, which might mean talking to the people you already know. There's geographic farming, expired listing form. There's a whole bunch of things, right? We cover them in our training program. Business servicing means responding to emails and text messages and phone calls and dealing with clients and pending transactions. Lead conversion means following up with the people that we've already talked to. There's a little more business servicing thrown in, appointments, showing property. That's, not necessarily in that order on those time frames, but that's what real estate agents do every day. Should be. Now, one of the other things about offices, let me just say as a general idea, there are three kinds of real estate offices. On one hand, there are the small boutique offices, right? I'm affiliated with one of those. I'm in it right now. The advantage of the small offices, the boutique offices, is they don't have monthly fees. The commission plan is pretty good. But the downside is not as much name recognition, or how about they don't have all the tools and systems and technology that you can get from big companies. Not everybody finds that necessary, right? The advantage of the small office, lower fees, maybe no monthly fees, better commissions, but you don't get technology and stuff. The other end of the spectrum are the big names, right? And by the way, just as, for transparency, I've worked for a couple of real estate companies, one for a really long time called Century 21. And by the way, the company that owns Century 21 also owns Coldwell Banker and Better Homes and Gardens and Sotheby's and ERA and Klein Realty and Zip Realty, and I'm sure I've left out one. But anyhow, it's a great big company. And those, I also spent 7 years at a company called Keller Williams. All Century 21, Keller Williams are franchises. There's a franchisor someplace else who owns the right to the name and the logo and the trademark, and every office is independently owned and operated, and they charge franchise fees and oftentimes monthly fees. And the big companies have training, and they have stuff, they have tools and technology and systems and things like that. And you've heard of some of these names before, but the commission split isn't as good, and they a lot of times have large monthly fees. And generally, the more they pay you, there's Remax is another example of a franchise. The more they pay you, the less they do for you. Right, so it's like a teeter-totter where the commission rate, as they pay you a higher commission, they lower the services. In between, something of a combination of all this are cloud-based companies. And cloud-based companies, well, let's talk about an example of one. There's one called eXp Realty, right, which I'm affiliated with. eXp Realty, now you may or may not have heard of eXp Realty, but we're the 5th largest residential real estate company in the United States by number of agents. We're international. The United States and Canada. We've opened Mexico. We're opening Portugal. We're in the United Kingdom already. We're opening France. We're opening India. We've been in Australia already and South Africa. Right? Most of those have already opened and we're expanding, so we're not small. Now, the reason that's important is if you're not small, you have the ability, the resources to provide the training and the tools and the systems that agents could benefit from. In fact, we've been doing very well in terms of a lot of things. We're a cloud-based company, and I'll get to why during a pandemic, it just happened to be something that a lot of people were interested in. The number of agents in our 3rd quarter of 2020 went up 56%. It's actually much higher now. The month over month is like much higher, it's over 65%. The number of transactions that we closed went up 95% from 2020 to 2019. By the 3rd quarter, our transaction volume, which is the total dollar volume of all the properties sold, went up 112%. Our revenue, and I'm going to talk about revenue sharing a little bit later, increased by 100%. And our profit, we, by the way, have stock options for our agents, went up 103%. We're doing pretty well. Now, what you may have, why are we doing so well? Well, when the pandemic hit, we are the only major cloud-based real estate company in the United States. So what was happening is the Coldwell Bankers and the Berkshire Hathaways and the Remaxes and the Keller Williams, the Citrus 21s, all of those companies, most real estate companies were scrambling to figure out, how do we service our agents? How do we conduct business? If people aren't coming to the office, how do we do that? We didn't have to scramble. We've already been doing that. We've been referred to by many writers as the Amazon of real estate. I like to think more of the Netflix, but it's the same idea. Some of you, if you're old enough, might remember that there was a time where we had these stores called Blockbuster Video, right? And if you're too young and you don't remember it, this will seem weird, but people used to go to these buildings to rent movies either on these cassette tapes or these little CD-ROMs. And then you'd take them home and you'd watch them and then you'd return them. Netflix, as you're probably all aware, is streaming video. And when they first got started, by the way, Netflix was having some trouble financially, and there was a point in time when they were new where they offered to sell out the Blockbuster, and Blockbuster turned them down. Blockbuster said, we know how to deliver movies to the public. We don't need you. Well, we all know what happened with that. Ever heard of Circuit City? And some of you may not have. Where did they go? Well, they were replaced by Amazon. And traditional real estate brokerages are being replaced by eXp Realty. Same kind of idea. We have a cloud campus environment, no desk fees, no, you can work from anywhere. By not having to rent buildings all over the United States, Canada, and all those other places, by not having to do that, it means that we can devote more money in terms of providing technology and services, pay our agents better, and provide more training and support and make a profit, because we've eliminated the brick and mortar costs. By training, we have every week live classes, over 50 hours a week. In addition, I supplement classes for people that are on my team. There's a lot of other classes. They're recorded as well. And it covers everything you would need to know to be successful in real estate. How to find buyers and sellers and investors, how to use social media. CRM means customer relationship management. It's a software, technology, all that sort of stuff. There's also, this is one of the things I particularly like about eXp, equity opportunities. I'm in Silicon Valley. Pretty much everywhere is becoming Silicon Valley. But EXPI is where I'm going with this is stock options. Like the other real estate companies, there's no stock options. Some of them are privately held, right? I mean, you can go buy stock, but that's not really what we're talking about. If you're in a tech company, you know where I'm going with this, is where the company provides discounted stock or making it part of your compensation. So we have a stock program. By the way, if you're into stocks, EXPI, NASDAQ, check it out. So the way that works, whenever I close a transaction with EXP, 5% of the commission that I receive goes to the purchase of stock at a 10% discount. And at certain levels of production, the company will give you stock in the company. And our stock, by the way, has been going kind of vertical this year because we're the only major cloud-based real estate company in the United States, and there's, a pandemic. We also have a revenue share program. Now, talking about what the volume is and how much revenue went up and how much profits went up. In most real estate companies, profit is sort of a dirty word, right? You understand? Because, you're not getting any of that, right? The people that own the company, they're getting all of the profits. What are you getting? Well, at EXP, they have what's called revenue share. Remember, 50% of all the money that EXP receives from commissions is given back to associates. We give 50% of the revenue, gross revenue, not net, not profit, 50% of the gross revenue that comes into EXP through commissions is given back to associates in revenue sharing. I'm sure the company you work at now does something similar. Don't they give away 50% of all their gross income to the employees? Don't they? Well, anyhow, probably not. Probably not. I'll give you an example of what later, maybe. So how do we conduct our business in the cloud? Well, we have something called the EXP World, which, as you can guess from the pictures here, could be accessed on a computer, a tablet, or even on a cell phone. It's a cloud environment. You have an avatar. You go real-time support. I've actually found that the tech support is like really good. They could take control of the computer and fix things, and it's very good. All of the human resources and administration and all of that is conducted in the cloud. There's daily training. There's large-scale meetings. It's pretty cool. Because we're a large real estate company, we have all the marketing and branding and templates and all of that stuff that you would need. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to, take classes in design of marketing or anything like that. What are people saying? The Amazon of real estate, the Amazon model of zero physical infrastructure, real estate, you're next. We've been called a disruptor in real estate, and we've been experiencing significant growth as a result. So let's get down to the numbers, right? All real estate companies have what I would call a baseline commission. When you first get started, it's usually at a lower for your first few transactions, but there's a baseline. At Keller Williams, for example, it was 70-30. At EXP, it's 80-20. I'll give you an example. So remember the $800,000 property, right? You sell an $800,000 property and you get $20,000 in gross commission income. On an 80-20 commission split, it means you would get $16,000 and then the office would get $4,000. Now notice it says that there's a $16,000 cap. What that means is when you've done 4 of those transactions, you've sold 4 $800,000 property or the equivalent of $1 million properties, you would have given EXP $16,000 and you'd get 100% of your commission for the rest of that year. The next transaction, you get 100%, all $20,000 minus a $250 transaction fee. Now, if you're on my production team, I have a production team at EXP, that cap is cut in half to only $8,000, which means after 2 transactions or 1 medium-sized transaction in Silicon Valley, you would have you could have capped and be at 100%, not having to give EXP any more money. It's $149 to get started, $85 a month is the cloud brokerage fee. That means training, all of the tools and systems. When you close a transaction, there's a $25 broker review fee, $40 risk management fee. Now, just to give you an idea of how this compares to other companies, typical offices might charge $200 a month to $300 a month, and there's some that are at $400 a month just to work there, right? Now they, have expensive brick and mortar buildings. And by the way, typically, this is true for Century 21, Global Banker, and Keller Williams, and all the real estate offices that I've worked with, you're looking at $250 to $500 per transaction as a transaction fee. So $85 a month, and what is that? $65 for transactions is pretty low. Pretty low. So we're the number 7 in terms of sales volume, number 5 in agent count. We're the largest independent real estate company in the United States. We're over 40,000 agents nationwide, over 5,000 just in the state of California. So how to get started? Well, to begin with, there are 3 things you have to do to get a real estate license. Number 1 is you have to complete 3 college level courses in real estate. You don't have to go to college, right? All of that is included in our package. Number 2, you have to pass an exam given by the California Department of Real Estate. Those are 2 different things. And then you can apply to get a real estate license. Before you can apply to take the state licensing exam, you have to complete 3 college level courses. One of them is real estate principles, one of them is real estate practice, and the third one is an elective. And the elective can come from anything on this list. Now, I'll point out that on this list is accounting, economics, and business law. What that means is if you have ever taken any time in the past accounting, economics, or business law from a junior college or better, and you can get your hands on a copy of the transcript, it doesn't have to be an original. This isn't like applying to Harvard. You've got the third course. I've heard people say, well, I have all three of those. Congratulations, only one is going to be used in this situation because you only need one from this list. Remember, principles, practice, one for this list. If you're saying, well, I've never taken accounting, economics, or business law, don't worry, we have legal aspects of real estate, which is real estate law that is included in the package. And by the way, even if you've taken accounting, economics, and business law, you're going to have access to the legal aspects course, which you ought to take because the Department of Real Estate is not going to ask you accounting, economics, and business law questions, but they're going to ask a lot of real estate law questions. How would you, our system for completing the 3 college level courses involves an online college level course environment, an online environment. Now, let me just explain how an online college level course works. You enroll in the program, right? You're going to be sent information about your college level course. You log into the website and you hit the start the course button. That's important because when you hit that button, a timer starts ticking. And in 18 days, you would be eligible to take that final exam for that course. You don't have to take the final exam in 18 days, but you could take longer. But the point is you can't take it any sooner than 18 days after you start the course. The final exams for the 3 college level courses are online final exams. You can take them at home and they're open book tests. Let me go over that one more time. The 3 final exams that you have to take for the 3 college level courses are online, at home, open book, cheat as much as you want to, final exams. You can cheat as much as you want to. They give you 3 hours to get 75 out of 100 questions correct. Did I mention that this is an open book test? The reason that they make you wait 18 days to take the final exam is because you could all pass right now. We give you the test, internet connection in 3 hours. In 3 hours, you can look up 75 answers by searching the PDF, which is a searchable document. You could look them up just from scratch, right? And so the Department of Real Estate wants it to be a 45-hour course, so they don't want you to pass until 18 days has elapsed. So I hope you understand that what I've described so far, or just now at least, this is not the hard part of getting a real estate license. You understand? The online open book, cheat as much as you want to, that's not the hard part. The hard part is passing the state exam itself. So once you've done the 3 college level courses, you can now apply to take the state exam. The state exam is not an online at-home test. You have to go to one of the Department of Real Estate's physical locations, which right now they're not open because there's a virus right now. It's been for a while. But the locations where they give the test are Oakland, Sacramento, Fresno, Orange County, and San Diego. That's it. It's not an open book test. You can't cheat as much as you want to. They're watching you to make sure you don't. The state exam is 150 multiple guess, I mean multiple choice questions, A, B, C, D, pick the best answer. There's no essays, no true false, no fill in the blanks. Out of those 150 questions, you have to get 70% of them right in order to pass the state exam. Does that sound like a particularly high score to require? 70%? You are laying on the operating table and your brain surgeon comes in and they're pulling on their gloves and they say, look, I may be new, but don't worry, I passed the brain surgeon's exam. I got 70% of those. I nailed that test. I got 70% right. Does that sound like a good score for a brain surgeon? 70% means they missed more than 1 out of every 4 questions they were asked about the subject of brain surgery. That doesn't sound so good. The 30% they didn't know, maybe that's what they're doing to me. My point is, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to get a real estate license, right? You don't have to be a brain surgeon. All you have to do is get 70% of the questions right and you're in. Having said that, however, every time the Department of Real Estate gives this test, they fail more than half the people in the room. Many of those people, they have failed before. You can take this exam an unlimited number of times. I have met too many people in the years I've been doing this. I met a lot of people that have failed the test more than 10 times, right? They decided they needed a course. You don't want to rush that kind of a decision. Now, all these people that are failing the state exam, right? It's more than 50% every time they give the test, but for first time takers, it's closer to 70%, right? Because remember, the 50% includes people repeating again and again and again. Of all these people that are failing the real estate exam, how many of them do you guess were able to successfully complete those 3 online, open book, cheat as much as you want to college courses? How many of them do you think were able to get through the 3 college courses? And the answer is they all did. You can't take this exam unless you've done the 3 college courses. So my point is, doing the 3 college courses does not mean you're getting a real estate license. It just means you've done the minimum that the law requires to go take a shot at the exam. What I do is I teach people how to pass the real estate exam. I have live classes. You can start with anyone and take them in any order. They're held on Wednesday nights from 6:30 to 8:45. They're webinars. They're broadcast on the internet. They're all recorded. You can watch them as often as you can stand it. And they're in a rotating class schedule. So normally, as it turns out, this Wednesday is lesson number 12. Normally, the next week would be lesson number 1, but we're taking 2 weeks off because, I don't know, holidays and things like that. All of the classes, of course, are recorded and can be watched, anyhow. And then it's like a pizza where it just keeps spinning, And the other reason why it's like a pizza is because there's no first slice. All of the classes are taught as independent modules. In other words, you could start with any one, you could take them in any order, you can repeat them as often as you want to. The investment in the entire program is $398. That includes the 12 live classes, the video replays, a course outline, a practice testing program. It includes the college level courses and a cram class, right, before you go take the test, which is called the Saturday workshop. I call my system DRE class. DRE could stand for the Department of Real Estate. It could stand for Devlin Real Estate Class. You will never know. But I have a really high pass rate. Virtually everyone who goes through my course passes the exam on their first try. I invite you to come and sit through a class as my guest. There's no cost or obligation. See if you like it or not. When you're graduating or going through the course, there's a placement assistant program where we help people find an office or team to work with. And if it's my team, I have a 100% tuition rebate program. On your first closing, I'm going to throw in an extra $398. So how long does it take to get a real estate license? If this was normal times, and as you probably know, this is not normal times. If this was normal times with no undue delay, either going through the course or with the Department of Real Estate, it would take 4 months to get a license. It takes 54 days to get through the 3 college level courses at 18 days each. And then it generally takes 2 months to get an exam date from the Department of Real Estate, hence about 4 months. Right now, you're not being able to take the test in 2 months because they keep, shutting down and then opening up a little bit and then shutting down. So it's taking more like 6 months to get a real estate license, not 4. That, however, could change with vaccines and other things. It could change. I also have an apprentice program, which is available for people that are in the process of getting their license. I have weekly coaching and training. You'll be invited to a guest pass to check out eXp World, guidance on what you could be doing now to get your future real estate business going, and you can be a finder during that time period. Get a finder fee that would help you, get into real estate. what does it cost to be in real estate? Now, to take the course is $398. Taking the state exam and having the Department of Real Estate issue you a license is $305. Plus, you're going to have about a $75 fingerprint rolling and processing fee. Now, if we stop right there, that's why I drew the line, that's $778. Now, if you're and by the way, the $398 you can get back on your first transaction, which is $400 almost. But the point is that if you're a referral only agent, then $778 is what it costs to get in real estate. Now, if you want to be not just a referral only agent, but a real estate agent, and you wanted to join the Association of Realtors at $650, the multiple listing service is about $475, $1,900 if you're doing the whole thing all at once, right? Joining the Board of Realtors, joining the MLS. How much does it cost every month? Well, I've taken the annual and I've prorated and taken the prorated and made it annual, but it's about $200 a month to be in real estate. Now, if you're at a referral only agent, it's no dollars a month to be in real estate. If you're at the boutique that doesn't have all the technology and stuff like that because you don't care, you save $1,020 a year or $85 a month. But just to give you an idea, $200 a month is our $85 a month fee for EXP is one of the lowest fees that any major real estate company charges. Keller Williams, it's $200 to $300. 300 at Coldwell Bank. You understand it goes up and up and up. Right? We just show. Your license is good for 4 years. Every 4 years, you take 45 hours of continuing education to renew it. That's how to get a hold of us if you'd like to talk. Check out our website, all of that, dreclass.com. I have good Yelp reviews. I stopped advertising on Yelp a couple of years ago until they filtered a couple of hundred of my 5-star reviews. They said it had nothing to do with the advertising. But before, this is a screenshot from those days. At that point, I had 123 reviews, and you can see I'm showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I have had 1 4-star review. By that time, 1 4-star review. By the way, I still have had only 1 4-star review. Right? What would you do now? If you go to my website, dreclass.com, the next thing to do this Wednesday, we're doing a class, right? Check it out. Click on the button that says free guest lesson. Fill out a form that looks a lot like the one you filled out to attend this thing, and you're in. If you've already watched one of those classes or say, hey, I don't really need that. I want to get started. I know it's going to take a long time. I want to enroll so that ticking clock, right? So I can get through the college courses comes up quicker. Click on the sign up now button, $398. And you've enrolled in everything you need in order to be prepared to take the state exam. That I know is the final slide that I have. Any questions? Don't everybody blur them out at once. I'll give it a minute. Well, I'm not seeing questions pop up. My director of administration, her name is Ra, that's R-H-A, like, you know, the sun god, is available to answer questions, as am I. Will there be a delay if the offices are closed for the test to get a license? There has been a delay, and I've sort of built that into my estimate. Right now, it's taking a lot longer to get a license because the Department of Real Estate isn't always giving the test. I don't have much control over that. But let's say vaccines start kicking in and they, you know, they were giving tests, but just keeping people apart, you know, like indoor dining kind of a thing. So I can't, all I know is right now they're not giving tests anywhere in the state. By the end of the month, they still have some scheduled, but I'll bet it'll be next year before they start giving tests again. But if you start right now, you're months away from even being able to apply to take the state exam. So it might be easier at that point to get a test date. All right. Well, I'm going to call it then. Thank you all for showing up. Join me this Wednesday night. Enroll and get started as soon as you can. And if you want to talk to me, reach out to us. I'd be glad to talk with you one-on-one. Have a nice evening. Stay safe out there.